David, thanks. A jury trial is underway in Brown County for a man suspected of killing another man who the suspect says broke into his home and attacked him.
Owen Backus of Green Bay facing a potential life sentence in prison if convicted in the murder of Michael Hubbard. Drew Best was in the courtroom today for the first day of the trial. He joins now live outside the courthouse with more details. Drew.
Bill and Cami, Owen Backus appearing in person for day one of his trial. The state beginning to mount their argument against him. The testimony beginning around 11 o'clock this morning. The state calling 9 witnesses to speak on the case. Among the witnesses including a forensic specialist and a detective for Green Bay Police. Each walked the court through numerous photos of Backus and the scene from the night of the incident, as well as the detective's interview with Backus in custody following his arrest. The detective facing questioning from both the state and the defense about his interview with Backus.
You did not observe any swelling or bruising on the facial area where he was pointing?
No.
And likewise on the arm where he said he was hit, you didn't observe any swelling or bruising?
No.
Did you notice multiple times in the video where Owen had a hard time getting his arm in or out of the suit that he was in?
Yes.
Did he audibly groan in pain?
Yes. Well, he audibly groaned.
The trial is scheduled to last through Friday, and court officials say everything appears to be on time after day one. Reporting live in Green Bay, Drew Best, Action 2 News.